Why is a cash contribution not always an adequate source of funds?
Well, let's go back to the very concept of evidence and sourcing funds. How do you evidence cash? It's almost impossible to prove where the cash has come from because it's cash. So because of the inherent problem of being able to provide the evidence around it, most conveyancers will not accept cash as an adequate source of funds method. It just doesn't satisfy the legislation and the duty put upon us as conveyancers. It doesn't mean that it's suspicious. That's not what we're saying. It's just that criteria that we have to satisfy in doing our own checks will just not ever get satisfied. Furthermore, if you have funds that are cash, but then legitimate source of funds for, say, the sale of a property or savings, and it's all intermingled in one account, that becomes really problematic as a conveyancing firm to accept as well, because then you can't tell out of those funds in that one account how much is the legitimate source of funds and how much is the cash, and it all becomes intermingled, and that again is really difficult for conveyancers to prove, and that can be really frustrating when clients get to that point as well. So really important to understand really early on why cash is an issue for conveyancing firms, because it's most likely that the firm will be unable to act.
Yeah, that is quite scary,
It
really.
is. It is.
So,
Yes.
so saying the source of this money was under my mattress doesn't work.
It doesn't. And also having a wedding, and if you've got very generous guests at the wedding and they're going to give you cash gifts, and you've just kept that in a bag under your bed until you buy a property, again, that would just fail the source of funds checks, because there is just no way of evidencing 10, 11, 12 people how they sourced that cash payment to give to you, and it's almost impossible to source.
So what if I got, like you say, really great relatives have pinned loads of money on me because I've got married and I've got £10,000?
Yeah.
What if I put that in my bank and it's in my bank account, for 6 months, 8 months, a year?
Or if it goes in with your savings as well, that's from salary, it all becomes intermingled in the same pot. So if you're using savings and some of that cash contribution, you can't tell what part of that is the cash and what part is the savings. But even though if it's sat in your account for however long, it doesn't matter. The fact is it came in as a cash deposit and it cannot be sourced to where it originally came from.
Right. So there isn't a length of time at which you get to the point. So say it was in my bank account for 10 years. You would go back 10 years to actually look at that £10,000 that I paid into cash to find out where it came from.
We have to investigate every penny that you put towards the purchase of a property.
Okay.
It's our duty to do so, and we have to look at every explanation and go back to that incredibly high bar that we have to satisfy. And it does not mean it's suspicious. We're not accusing anyone of anything. It just means we can't complete our checks and we will be unable to act in that scenario if that is the full source of the funds.
Yeah.
But also, if it gets intermingled with a legitimate source that you have, then the other issue to deal with that I mentioned.
Yeah, I suppose I had thought that there was this, maybe it's a misconception that you only go back and look at the last 6 months worth of source. So I didn't realise you go as far back.
Well, yeah, I mean, it could be that someone's been saving for 10 years to purchase the property of a property. So if they're saving for 10 years, we're not asking for 10 years worth of bank statements, but we'll be asking for recent pay slips, and we'll be asking for bank statements for, say, the past 5 years, a few for the last, to show that gradual build up of funds. So we're just looking for a clear explanation and wealth check to see, that explanation is plausible and it's backed by this evidence that we've now collated. And that standard that we have to satisfy is reasonableness. We're not FBI agents. We're not, we have to go to any degree like that. It might feel to some clients that we are, but we're not. We just want to get a documentary trail that is reasonable and acceptable to show that we've done our due diligence around this area. And that's as simple as it is.
So the small takeaway from this is make sure you can, document your source of funds as early as possible.
As early as possible, and seek guidance and clarity. I think that's key. It can be complicated, but it doesn't have to be if you've got clear advice.